Hello, brilliant and embodied souls. My name is Kim. Welcome back to my channel. I have a video response for all of you today. This is a VR to Jay over at Iridescent Tarot for the tag Only One Deck. Yeah. Only one tarot deck, only one oracle deck. That's the name of this game. We can share a runner-up for the tarot. We can share a runner-up for the oracle, but we have to choose one tarot, one oracle. I appreciate the the structure and the parameters, the firm and just downright excruciating parameters of this tag. And I could see how it would be a very excruciating prompt for many people. Surprisingly, though, for me, this has not been an excruciating process. When I watched Jay's video and a few other people's videos, it was instantaneous to me what I would actually pick. And I like thinking about this type of question. I think all the time about what tarot deck would I grab in case of an emergency and I have to leave the house quickly and rapidly. You know, what tarot deck would I bring with me if I was on a desert island and stuck there? You know, what tarot deck and oracle deck would I bring with me if I have to travel extensively and I don't have a lot of space for decks? These are questions that I've thought about, and time again, I've come back to the same answers. So let's explore my picks. If you've been around my channel, you're gonna know the pick for the tarot deck. So let's just get right into it. Circle of Doors Tarot. This is my ride or die. Check out the production. It is a gorgeous deck. It originally was a Burning Man art project, which you can see depicted here. The artists Anne Stavely and Jill Sutherland created amazing, evocative photography for the major arcana and then put the photographs behind these doors. So this was an interactive piece of art that went to Burning Man and maybe some other festivals. Don't quote me on that. So these are artists who want to bring the power of art out into the rest of the world. And I really, really resonate with that. I've been to Burning Man several times, and so I know the power of that event. So that was one of the things that initially drew me to this deck, was how it originally came to be. It really spoke to me. You know, then just the art. The photographs that make up this deck are so emotional, incredibly liminal. This is double and maybe sometimes triple exposure photography, digital photography, I believe. The images, the photographs were taken in ceremony and ritual. The reverence, the sacredness of the images is palatable to me when I work with this deck. The other thing about the images is that within the liminality, I see so many things. This deck continues to reveal itself to me. Time and time again, I find new little gems within each of these images. So this deck would have a long lifespan. It already has had a long lifespan within my practice. I do not get tired of looking at this art. In fact, my love of the art just grows and grows and grows. Another thing about the images is the oracular nature of them. depending on the day, my eye might go to different aspects of a given image. So for example, sometimes my eye goes to the three women, sometimes it goes to one of the women, sometimes it goes to the cups. The images themselves offer insight in terms of where does my eye go, right? Did my eye go to this mother and child, or did it go to the lock, or did it go to the fire chandelier? There's just something oracular about the photography, and I love how complex yet simple the artwork is. Since it's black and white, it goes with so many other decks. It is a highly versatile reader. I can read on so many different topics with this deck. This deck does it all. It will answer deep questions with regards to my spiritual path and development. It will answer psychological questions. It will answer relationship questions. It answers vocational questions, work questions. It answers questions about finance. I mean, just every domain of life. This deck is down to support me around. Then there's the voice of the deck. When I opened its package and laid out the first spread, I was godsmacked. Hecate's voice came through so clear. The voice of the ancestors, the voice of all of the women who have ever existed on this planet came roaring through this deck. This deck is a portal into the divine feminine, and the liminality and yet the embodied reality of what it means to be human. This is a wise deck. This is a deep and profound deck. This deck is so attuned. This deck is the voice of the maiden. It has a youthfulness about it. It also has deep mother energy, right? There's a care and a compassion within this deck. There's also a creative force within this deck. There's a lot of energy. And then finally, there's a lot of crone energy, or again, that wisdom that I speak to. This is a deck that was created, at least it seems to me, by people who have not only a profound understanding of the tarot, but have a profound understanding of what it means to be magical. This is a magically infused deck. It is a sorceress deck. It is a witch deck. It is a pagan deck. It is a nature-based spirituality deck. So in that regard, it is very unique. It totally goes its own way. This Six of Knives is a interesting card to illustrate this. You can read this deck based off of the Rider-Waite-Smith tradition if you want to, but there's so much more within this imagery that I can deepen into. So it does not have, some of what I can sometimes consider charged imagery, religious, like imagery rooted in Christian religiosity. This deck goes its own way and does so rooted in, as I said, the divine feminine, the nature-based magic, feminine-based magic. All of the people in this deck are female presenting, and kind of going back to what I was saying about its voice, right? The court cards are maiden, mother, maga, crone. So it's a deck that's also deeply rooted in the phases of life, which grounds it in reality. So I find this to be a very embodied deck. a very here and now deck, and yet it reaches into the cosmos. It's also a very celestial deck, a very ephemeral kind of deck. It really just does it all. It does it all, folks. And I love it. But like all of the female presenting and or identifying folks in this deck, that could put some people off. I totally get it. It's a very people-centered deck. Not everybody is into that kind of thing. But for me, the people-centeredness is so great. I get so much information based off of people's gestures and facial expressions. It's such an emotional deck, and I have such an emotional connection with this deck. We have a profound relationship. I have used this deck almost every day since I got it. I have not been able to put it down. I just love it so much. I love it so much. And then the guidebook is so good. It's the kind of guidebook where you can read it again and again and come away with new and different gems. The way that the guidebook functions is a lot like how the images function. There's so many different layers of wisdom and message to be found within the guidebook. It's just an amazing deck. So amazing. And finally, right, it's linked to Hecate. So many aspects of the visual language, are her visual language. And then there's so much diversity within the deck. It just hits on all of the points. It gets all the gold stars. It gets the grade. It gets the A. I love this deck so much. Okay, so I do have a tarot runner-up, and sadly that is the Floricos Tarot. I love this deck too, but it doesn't take the number one spot because it lacks the versatility that I find in the Circle of Doors. This is a incredibly dreamy deck. It also has its totally own unique visual language. We've got these sketchy minors and then painterly majors and court cards. There's so much variety, visual variety within this deck. However, it can be a bit confounding and perplexing. This is not, in my experience, a incredibly clear reader. Sometimes it's clear, other times it is very elusive and not totally transparent. It is very, very dreamlike. Sometimes I wake up from a dream and I know what it meant and its significance in my life. Other times, not at all. And that is exactly how this deck functions. It is a wonderful deck for deep psychological exploration. I'd say it's a great deck for spirituality, but the other domains of life, it falls down a little bit. It's not a really great deck for vocational readings. You can read about relationships, but some of the more mundane aspects of life, it just doesn't seem to want to come forward for those types of questions. So this deck has to be a second due to that versatility piece. And I have a very, very strong relationship with this deck. I would say my relationship with this deck is almost as strong as Circle of Doors, but that's just it. It's almost as strong. So that's why it has to be a runner-up. Despite all the time that we have spent together, all of the readings that have taken place, it's a second place. But I still love it. I love this deck. If I could bring two decks, I'd probably bring these two. So There it is. There it is. All right, let's move on to Oracle decks. I'm going to start with my top Oracle deck. This is my one Oracle deck. I would go Wild Unknown Pocket Archetypes, and I would go the Pocket Edition because it comes in this handy tin. It's compact. It's very easy to work with. The only problem is the guidebook is so tiny. You know, reading the entries can be a bit challenging. But the size is just so handy. I love putting this deck with tarot. I love shuffling the deck. The larger size is sometimes just unwieldy, I should say. So the mini version actually truly wins out. But I'm talking, you know, some of the physical aspects of this deck. I want to talk about the artwork. I want to talk about the spirit and the energy of this deck. Kim Kranz's collage work is so beautiful. She mixes her own original watercolor and pen artwork with collage elements, and it just works so well. She has such a knack for conveying abstract concepts in a very evocative, emotional, yet simple and refined manner. I love her artwork. It speaks on spiritual levels, psychological levels, and yet, you know, this deck can answer all manner of questions. So again, we come back to versatility. The archetype categories in this deck are very useful. We have archetypal tools and objects. Then we have archetypal places. We have archetypal identities, like the lover as an example, or the orphan. And then finally we have archetypal wisdom. Those cards are definitely fewer and far between. Let me see if I can find one. Yeah, no, they're of course not really showing themselves per usual. But the four categories of archetypes make it or allow for really great and powerful answers to a whole variety of questions. So this deck ends up being something that just has a lot of functionality and goes with so many other decks. And it goes really well with the Circle of Doors. So we do have a fantastic pairing between the two. So that was a factor for me choosing this deck as well. But that said, if I didn't already say this, the Circle of Doors goes with a ton of other decks. It really does. And that's also true for the pocket archetypes or archetypes in general. Yeah, and my relationship with this deck is really profound. I've had this deck for quite a while. It was one of my first Oracle decks. So we have really gotten to know each other. It's come through for me on many occasions. When I read for others with this deck, it just shines. It really shows up for people, and it shows up for me. So that's why it has to be my number one Oracle deck. All right, let's talk about the runner-up Oracle deck, and that is the Death Doula Oracle. This deck is also incredibly versatile. It goes with a lot of other tarot decks as well because we have this beautiful, expansive photography. Again, we have layered photography. So it would have gone very well with Circle of Doors. They really sing together because of the size and the nature of the artwork. But it comes in second place because I haven't built the relationship with this deck the way I have with the Wild Unknown archetypes. I would like to spend more time with this deck, and it could maybe someday edge out the archetypes deck. We shall see, because the keywords are so expansive. This is the type of deck that is a death doula. It guides us around difficult themes, such as unprocessed lower world. And it also guides us through life. This is a life doula deck as much as a death doula deck. It is profound. There's so much wisdom and reverence held within this deck. It answers all manner of questions. Again, like really shows up, which for me is, a criterion for all of the decks, really. Like, I want something that is incredibly versatile, beautiful, profound, holds a lot of wisdom. The guidebook has beautiful messages up front. Then we get into practices and rituals in the middle. And then there is a very profound and sweet section at the back. We get like exercises. Where did that? There's like a really great section on, the little section on the big death. I mean, it's a really profound guidebook. The thing about this deck, one of the things about it, is the artwork is so messy and chaotic. And I feel this deck gives me permission to be less refined, less perfect, more authentic, and raw. This is a raw deck, and I love that. I love its intensity. I love it's not shying away from all of the things that need to be addressed, that want to be addressed. It's just going right in. It's going right in. And that intensity and rawness can be really helpful at times, but other times, like it is a pretty serious deck. This is a deck that is not messing around, and I do like how the archetypes deck is just slightly more playful. It is also not messing around, but it is willing to have a little bit more fun and a little bit more humor on the journey. And if I could only have one deck, I guess I do need some humor. I do need some playfulness if I'm gonna get through. So that is another reason why the pocket archetypes just edges out the death doula. Okay, those are my picks. Thank you so much for joining me for this VR. To Jay, thank you so much for putting this together. What a lovely, lovely prompt. I had such a wonderful time thinking about my choices and the runners up and the why behind all of that. Thank you to everybody who watched. I will see you all in the next video. Bye for now.